Okay, so it's pretty rare that a colloquy between a junior congressman and the United States Trade Representative at what is basically a routine congressional hearing suddenly goes viral and makes national news. And you know what's even more rare? When the topic that makes it go viral is negotiation. So that is exactly what happened 10 days ago when Congressman Greg Murphy, a Republican, suggested that Ambassador Katherine Tai, who is the United States Trade Representative, meaning that she is the chief trade negotiator for the United States, was, quote, too nice to be in the job. Now, when she demurred, Congressman Murphy actually doubled down, saying that, quote, she had too nice a smile.
Negotiators are usually very, very tough and sometimes mean people. They aren't nice people like you are.
So, Congressman, I can assure you that I know to be nice to members of the Ways and Means Committee, and I've never been faulted for being too nice. I also
You have too nice a
also,
smile.
That colloquy generated a ton of media attention, both in traditional media and online, with many calling the congressman's comments misogynist, sexist, and even racist. Now, Ambassador Tai is the first Asian American woman in U.S. history to hold this key cabinet post. So I think it's fair to say that comments like Congressman Murphy's, however intended, they tend to land as both sexist and as racist. Why is that the case? Well, to be honest, it's pretty hard to imagine a congressman telling a white male U.S. trade representative that, quote, he was too nice to be an effective negotiator or that his smile was too nice. But that kind of comment is often made toward a woman. But there's already been a huge amount of print media and tons of tweets and YouTube videos on this topic already. So today, I'm actually going to analyze Congressman Murphy's comments from the perspective of my own domain of expertise, that is, negotiation. And I'm going to explain why Congressman Murphy is both wrong in his assessment about what it takes to be a good negotiator, and frankly, wrong in his assessment about Ambassador Tai. It turns out Ambassador Tai, this is totally unrelated, was literally next in my list of great negotiators for my Great Negotiator series. So I am using this event as a way to dig in on why she's a great negotiator and to clear up some common misperceptions about what it takes to be a great negotiator. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to share a fun little fact about Ambassador Tai that regular viewers of my channel might find kind of cool. Okay, so let's break down some of what Congressman Murphy actually says here.
I don't know you very well. You come very, very highly spoken of from members who worked with you previously. I personally think you're too nice a person to be in the job that you're in, because I think you're handicapped because of administrative folks that you have to report to, et cetera, that are handicapping you in your job. Negotiators are usually very, very tough and sometimes mean people. They aren't nice people like you are.
Okay, let's stop here. This statement is a really common misunderstanding of what it takes to be a great negotiator. The notion that effective negotiators are tough or mean is both inconsistent with research and, frankly, is one of the worst myths to be perpetrated about negotiation. This kind of comment makes me particularly angry to hear because so many of my students through the years will say, oh, I really hate negotiation. And when I ask them why, they think of themselves as kind people, relational people, generous people, and they're just like, I don't want to be mean. I don't like to lie. I don't like to be tough. And here's the thing though, the very best negotiators, in fact, are nice. But when I say nice, let me say what I mean by that. What I mean is that they're really good at building quality relationships, relationships that are based on mutual trust and mutual understanding. They are really good at being listeners. They are really good about asking generous questions. They are empathic. They care about the other side's interests. They bring creativity to the table. And they're also really assertive about the things that matter to them in the negotiation. So the notion that being a good negotiator means you're tricky, or you're tough, or you're mean, or you dig in, that's just wrong, right? I spent a lot of my professional career trying to debunk the idea that toughness or meanness are good qualities in negotiation. I've also spent a lot of time trying to debunk the idea that niceness is weakness. Great negotiators, they are firm, they are tenacious, they represent their interests or the interests of their client really, really well in the substance. And you know what? They're also generous with people, and they're good listeners, and they're kind. And in fact, one of the reasons why Ambassador Tai is a great negotiator is that she has this track record of building really strong relationships. And she does this both across the aisle with Republicans, she does this within the administration, she does this with business, and she does this with our global trade partners around the world. So let me just give you a few examples of how we know this to be true. First of all, Ambassador Tai was unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate in a 98-0 vote to be in President Biden's cabinet. To be clear, in this highly polarized moment, this person got a unanimous vote of the United States Senate. That does not happen randomly. And to be clear, right, it doesn't happen because she's nice. It's because she's respected. And she's respected for being able to build quality relationships and, frankly, to get things done. You know, when Ambassador Tai served as the chief trade lawyer at the House Ways and Means Committee, she built this relationship with both Democrats and Republicans. In fact, one staffer said, quote, "Everyone likes Katherine Tai at the moment of her nomination." Now, it turns out, though, she has a remarkable track record of success in negotiation. So in 2012, she somehow managed to get 18 countries to join the United States in a case against China related to rare earth exports. This case ultimately banned exports that were made with forced labor. As the United States trade representative, she's also reached some truly historic agreements. So, for example, she ended a 17-year dispute that really went across many presidential administrations regarding civil aircraft. And this deal, reached with the EU and the UK, actually protects thousands of aviation jobs. In addition, Ambassador Tai worked with the United Kingdom to resolve a very long-standing steel tariff dispute. Now, at the same time she's resolved disputes, she's also rebuilt strong ties with our long-term allies. She's renewed U.S. engagement in the Indo-Pacific region, and she's advanced a powerful equity agenda for U.S. trade policy. Accomplishments like these do not happen because you're tough, or mean, or nice. It happens because you represent your interests well. You have trusting relationships. People know your good faith and your credibility, and you have an ability to think creatively. And that is really the reputation that Ambassador Tai has. So in response to Congressman Murphy, Ambassador Tai was able to say,
So, Congressman, I can assure you that I know to be nice to members of the Ways and Means Committee, and I've never been faulted for being too nice. I also
You have too nice a smile.
I also don't need you to feel sorry for me. So please don't do that.
I feel like you've been put in a tough spot personally, because there's just been, this administration above you has just shown no interest in
Okay,
trade.
well, let me just take off the nice a little bit. I don't need your pity. I stand up for the American people, and when I speak, people listen because I represent the interests of the United States.
Okay, so let me unpack a second part of Congressman Murphy's comment that I think belies another common misunderstanding that the role of a negotiator has in being successful in their negotiations.
Because I think you're handicapped because of administrative folks that you have to report to, et cetera, that are handicapping you in your job.
Okay, so actually here, Congressman Murphy is actually making a really important point about what it takes to be a good negotiator. Because you could have all of the skill in the world. You could be great at building relationships. You could be firm on the substance. But in fact, if your hands are tied because your boss or your client, or in this case, the Biden administration, isn't giving you what you need to be successful in the negotiation across the table, then you're going to have a really rough time of getting anything done. But where Congressman Murphy misses the ball is in his actual assessment of this particular situation. Because in fact, really great negotiators realize that part of what makes them great, part of what you need in order to be successful across the table, is that you have to actually tend to the interests of the constituents behind the table. Not just your boss, but the other people who maybe influence the boss, the people your boss cares about. And in this case, Ambassador Tai is extremely effective. In fact, she has very strong relationships, not only within the Biden administration, but also with staff and congresspeople on Capitol Hill. Oh, she also does a lot to maintain relationships with businesses across the United States. And that is part of why she's able to be an effective negotiator with negotiation counterparts around the world. This careful attention to interest behind the table is actually one of the reasons why just a few months ago, the New England Council, which is New England's oldest regional business organization, actually named Ambassador Tai as New Englander of the Year at their recent meeting. For a major business association to give an award to a Democratic U.S. trade representative says something about just how effective this person is. Third quality of a great negotiator that I want to call out here is their ability to handle difficult or triggering behaviors or comments with aplomb. And again, in this clip, we see Ambassador Tai doing this extremely effectively. When Congressman Murphy calls her too nice or compliments her smile, right, it's easy to imagine that many negotiators would either A, completely fall to pieces because they're triggered, or B, have a very defensive kind of response that would actually escalate the situation. And of course, neither of these are particularly productive. But what we see Ambassador Tai do here is quite skillful. First, she tries to diffuse it with a bit of humor, right? She says something like, I know to be really nice to the members of the Way and Means Committee, right? And the idea is to make people smile, bring the temperature down. Now, when the congressman comes back and basically says, well, your hands are tied and your smile is too nice, what she does so nicely is demonstrate a firmness and the confidence, right? She says, when I speak, people respect me because I respect the interests of the United States. It's a statement of fact done firmly. It's not personal. It doesn't lob an attack back. It doesn't escalate. And what it really does is signal to the congressman, it's time to move on to substance, continuing on this theme of whether or not you're an effective negotiator or have the tools to be an effective negotiator won't be productive anymore. And that is exactly what the congressman ultimately does, right? He turns to the issues of substance, which frankly is the reason why the ambassador was there testifying in the first place. Now, before I close, let me just mention one other quality. There are many, but I want to mention one other quality that Ambassador Tai has that really put her in this pantheon of great negotiators. And that is her ability to prepare systematically, thoughtfully, and thoroughly, and then play the long game in negotiation. So one of the qualities that has enabled her to achieve as many successes as she has on behalf of the United States is that she maps parties, stakeholders, and interests incredibly well. She thinks about, within a system, who influences whom. And she then plays a long game to really get parties to move from positions to interests, and then get them to actually create value and really resolve disputes that often are quite stuck. And so that preparation piece is something that's really worth calling out here. So to review, the colloquy between Ambassador Tai and Congressman Murphy helps reveal 4 qualities that great negotiators like Ambassador Tai have. First, they know that it's not about being nice or about being tough. It's about building strong relationships based on mutual trust, on reliability, and then a confidence that that negotiator will be firm and strong on substance, but respectful and relationship building with respect to the people. Second, great negotiators manage the interests of the parties behind the negotiation table, looking behind that table as if it's a negotiation in preparation for and in order to support the negotiation across the table. Third, great negotiators are skillful at handling triggering or difficult behaviors in the moment at the negotiation table. They do that by diffusing the hard bargaining behavior instead of either ignoring it, surrendering, or worse, playing the game back and escalating. And lastly, great negotiators spend an enormous amount of time preparing, and then they play for the long game. Okay, so some of you are probably thinking, what is the fun fact about Ambassador Tai? So this is one that I'm really proud of. But many, many years ago, in fact, my first year teaching at Harvard Law School, Ambassador Tai was a student in my negotiation class at the law school. And it turns out she ultimately ended up being a teaching assistant in the negotiation workshop at Harvard Law School. Now, let me be absolutely clear. I can take absolutely no credit for how great a negotiator she is. But what I can take credit for is watching and learning from her about how to be a better negotiator myself. So if you want to keep on learning from great negotiators, watch this next video. This one is about one of my mentors in the negotiation field, the late Professor Roger Fisher, who founded the Harvard Negotiation Project. Also, before you go, it would be a great favor to me if you would subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, like this video, and of course, ring the bell so you don't miss any more content. I'm Bob Bordone, and thanks for watching. Okay, you know you want to be inspired. Keep watching.